How do you feel when you are playing together?
Well, it's nice to be able to just play in a group and not just play by yourself. I mean, since I was a child, I've been a pianist, and most of that is rather solitary. But you know, playing in a group, even if you're just playing something simple, it's great to be. Sometimes one of my, I play several instruments. I play gundar and gambang, and sometimes it's nice just to sit behind the gongs and very occasionally and listen to everybody else. And that's thrilling, you know, not doing much, but listening to what other people are doing can be.
It is noticeable that when people join, if they join perhaps in the middle of the year, just one newcomer comes in and a bit of attention from the instructor, and soon they're joining in everything we're doing, playing a simple instrument, but joining in. And we always use this as one of the attractions if people ask about gamelan, that we say this is one of the best things about it, that you can join in with a group from the very early stage, even when you don't know much yourself.
There is one other big advantage for me playing gamelan. When I was a child, I learnt all my Western music from Braille, and that means getting quite big scores and learning a lot of stuff because you can't sight read and play at the same time. Whereas with gamelan, the score is tiny, it's minimal. It's what you do with it on your instrument that counts, of course. So you can actually transcribe a gamelan piece in quite a short space of time. You don't transcribe the whole, everything that the gamelan is doing. You just transcribe the one line of notes, and there you are, you've got it. And then you take your, as you know, you take your instrument and you develop it on that basis. But that means that if I get a new piece, sometimes, for example, we're sitting in the room. If it's a piece I haven't played, somebody will read it to me a few times, and I'll say, right, I think I've got that now. It's much easier than getting a whole score and transcribing that into Braille. That would be incredibly boring. If I had to write out a Mozart symphony or something, that would take months. They can do this in half an hour. The score is just there. You've got it.
And Jen, how is it different playing gamelan from playing Western music, in your experience?
Well, just the physical act of playing is much simpler. I never studied any Western instruments hardly at all. But I knew my friends and fellow pupils at school and so on. They'd go scratching away on their violins in back rooms for years before they ever got a chance to play with anyone else, let alone in public.
I think the critical difference between gamelan and, say, a Western orchestra. A Western orchestra, everybody is at the top of their game. They've got to be absolutely at the top of the instrument. Whereas in a gamelan, you can be at different levels. You can be almost from a beginner playing on a gamelan instrument right through to something which you might have taken several years to master. So it means that people who even children can join in, and anybody can join in. And you just noticed that we talked about people coming to the group and they can be incorporated quite quickly. But I think a lot of people, when they do come to gamelan, they play it, oh gosh, this is easy. And they master it in a few weeks, and then they go away because they don't think there's anything more to it. They don't realise that they can actually develop it quite considerably. And it's as complicated as any other music, really, at different levels. But the different levels are together. There's in an orchestra, a Western orchestra, there isn't really a simple level. And that creates this community thing as well, you see. You don't have to be an expert to join.
Mm.
Yes, I think this is the big attraction, that we're a mixed group. And that doesn't just mean men and women, it means all ages, all sorts of backgrounds, some from within the university, either as staff or as students. Though not often as music students, it's a spare time thing for people who are studying something else.
Something else that people can do, of course, is when they're really quite recent into it, is that they can sing.
Yes,
and that's
doing a lot of singing.
They're not just doing something simple with everybody else. They can. I mean, the singing is very upfront and important, and we've got people in our group at the moment who've been with us for only a few months, and they're doing the garong, and you know they're taking part in something which is vital to the overall sound.
Yes, and I mean, I think this certainly is a major feature of our group. And there are a lot of gamelans scattered around in Britain. And Pete will no doubt tell you where most of them have come from. But many of them belong to schools or to universities, and they're only teaching people who are all beginners. And they teach them for a year, and then most of them disappear, and then they start again with a new batch of beginners. But we have people like David and myself, who've been playing for 20 or 30 years, and some have progressed more than others, and there's room for complete beginners to fit in among the experienced players. So
You were asking about the differences. I mean, one of the other really nice things is you get to move around. You don't just sit there playing your clarinet in the back row all the time. You can play different instruments, and it's like a sort of huge toy almost. There's this wonderful set of different things that you can have a go on, and you know when you walk in there for the first time, it's like being a child. You know, you get this huge gong, and you're allowed to hit it. It's astonishing. My children, when they go, I've been in the odd session, and it's just like a palace of wonderment, you know, for them.
David's sons have played with the group a couple of times, and yes, it's like a great big toy. It really
Yeah.
is.
I must tell you about the wonderful time in we played out in Noel's Garden,
That's right.
and one of the great tricks was this. My lads they're not experienced gamelan players at all, but it was decided that they would play the gong at the end of every gongan, and the trick that I think Pete invented was that they had to run round the garden and be back in time to play the gong. And they thought this was fabulous. So they would trot round the garden and come back in time to play the gong. They were not unaware of the fact that later in the piece, it must have been a Gunding Bonang or something, where the pace accelerates terrifically at the end. And they had to go at the clappers to get round to get back in time to play the gong.
It sounds fun.
It was. They thought it was great.
One more question. How does gamelan affect your life?
I think it's just one of the enrichments of life. I mean, it's, you know, one would survive without it, but it wouldn't be so good without it. It's just it's like say, taking anything else that you find important to take it away. I mean, I guess it's some people they're immersed in, I don't know, golf or sport or whatever. For us, it's gamelan and no doubt other things as well. But it's just one of the things that well, for me anyway, it's one of the things one of the 3 or 4 things that I do that makes life tolerable.
How about
yes, well, we meet basically for one evening a week. We have 2 or 3 hours playing, but then from time to time people invite us to perform, as we are doing this evening, of various kinds of performance, short and long, and parts of a mixed program, or sometimes on our own, sometimes with dancers, once or twice with a dalang. And in the past, we're more self-contained now as our group has become a bit stronger. But in the past, we would gather. There'd be national gatherings. There'd be a weekend gamelan study somewhere, and so that would take us to other parts of the country, and we'd meet different people. But no, for me, it is an opportunity to be a participant, a performer, a contributor to music, on the basis of not worrying so totally about the manual skill, but on getting familiarity with the music, getting used to interacting with other people and listening to what the other musicians are doing. So you're concentrating on a much wider range of skills. And of course, it's led to me travelling to Indonesia. So
Thank you very much.